Today's July 15th, and it's a Monday. I am in Rocky Mountain National Park. You can see the trees. You can almost feel that it's approaching 10 o'clock in the morning, and yet where I'm at, it's 58 degrees outside. The temperature is perfect. It might sound cold. Earlier this morning, it was in the upper 40s, and it was still absolutely pleasant in shorts and a t-shirt. So I'm taking advantage of the beautiful environment that's available for me to appreciate right now, and I'm noticing a lot of things. For one, even though it's cooler right now, I'm definitely not seeing the equivalent amount of wildlife that I had seen in years past. That's not to say that I'm not seeing wildlife. It's just suggesting that many of the things as they used to be have changed considerably over just a 5-year period of time. And some people may not notice this because they're not actively paying attention to just wildlife of any variety. For me, that's my favorite thing. And in a lot of cases, when I do these in-vehicle presentations, just for reference, if I was in Big Bend National Park, in eons past, you would at least see a vulture flying overhead at some point. In eons past, here, you would oftentimes see hawks, eagles, golden eagles, a variety of birds that I'm not finding throughout all of the park like I would in the past, even though plenty of things are starting to bloom. There are red flowers that look like the flowers that I normally would see in springtime. The majority of the ice has melted off of the top of these mountains, off of the tops of these mountains. And the trees, the foliage is beautiful. The aspens, when the wind blows, you can just hear the rustling of the leaves. And all of these things are restorative energies that I am absorbing for you. If it weren't for the audience here, I wouldn't really know that I was succeeding at what I was doing. And I continuously see this channel's uptick, the growth, the subscribers, and to me that must mean that a lot of us are interested in wildlife and nature. And we're trying to find a way to communicate effectively the great need to make urgent changes. And I only say urgent because, well, it's a springboard effect. If we can change a lot of the unnecessary things that we're already doing, save time, save effort, I think that the whole world could easily come to alignment. But that's the kind of view that a dreamer has. And for a lot of reasons, as we grow up, we're taught to dislike the dreamer. That's the standard programming, and that's what keeps us divided. And then inevitably we meet one another and we share an amazing conversation. And that amazing conversation leads to joy. It's fun. It's fun to have complete conversations with one another. If it wasn't fun, then we wouldn't be communicating right now. You wouldn't be listening to this simple story that's trying to call attention to the fact that for this whole time I've been driving from the lower elevation towards the upper elevation, I have not seen any kind of a squirrel. No ground squirrels, no rock squirrels, no chipmunks, no pika, no marmot, no martins. There are a lot of things that were rare to begin with. You really had to put in your time, drive at night, and carefully look for anything that just barely was the hint of a remnant of a vision that you got to see of the wildlife that was up here. But we did it. A lot of people who have traveled with me through these great places have seen amazing things. And oftentimes we see what we set out to observe. And so today, as I'm passing through this park, having been detoured from leaving through the Grand Lake area of Rocky Mountain National Park due to who knows what, could have been a rock slide, an accident, I'm not sure. But there was a massive delay, so now I'm driving up and over Trail Ridge Road. As you pay attention to the backdrop in this video, you'll notice the trees are getting smaller and smaller, and eventually we're going to get to a point where there are no trees. That's how much of an elevation gain we're making here. And in a place like this, when you make elevation gains like that, you have vistas, entire ecosystems that you can see. Right now I'm seeing a lot of red flowers, yellow flowers. I've heard several hummingbirds. That's a good thing. I've seen moose and deer today itself, even though I got here at like 2 in the morning today also. And I've already had a good portion of my cup of hot tea that I made using the Jetboil. It's amazing how technology can allow us to enjoy these circumstances, sometimes entertaining ourselves away from actually paying attention to what's going on. In this particular era, on this specific day, at this precise time when you're watching this, for some reason, you're hearing a conversation from some guy who's really concerned about our ecosystems. And I'm really concerned about these ecosystems because that's what provides all of our comfort. You know? Our parents comforted us as best they could using the resources that were available to them. And they did that in harmony with whatever system was in place. As we all know, systems come and systems go. And as far as all of it is concerned, generally, there's an unfair distribution of votes. The votes are that people are practically trying to give us stuff that is destructive to the environment, like plastic bottled water, trying to give it to us. And every single industry, pharma, big pharma, the cannabis industry here in Colorado, all of the different things that you can possibly experience come in some kind of a plastic container, just like as if you were getting prescription medications from a hospital, from a pharmacy. And that's an interesting way to keep doing things without having a strategy to immediately curb all of the continued production of these possibly destructive items. If we don't find a way to put them back into circulation immediately, like where that's the standard, you know, we don't need to make any more one-time use bags to transport anything. All of the bags already exist and then some. The cleanup process that's going to be required to help our environments to the point where you can see all of the flowers during this point in time met with their butterflies, to where you can see all of these trees and this truth, where you can see all of these trees met with their corresponding birds. Right now, as I am seeing it and showing it to you, there are some curious anomalies. There are things that are missing. And I think that some of us wouldn't be able to see that if it wasn't presented through the eyes of someone who keeps focus on what it is that they've searched for their entire lives. For my whole life, I wanted to live in a place like this, where I had access to all of this amazing wildlife. Because if you've looked at my channel, you'll see bears, they visit me. They try to ambush me. I've crossed paths with many bears. Mountain lions, sometimes I dream of where I'm going to see them. And then I go and see them and take pictures. There's all kinds of things that I feel are communications. And in some cases, when you're under the guidance of a place like this, you can't communicate as effectively with some of the animals that might want to communicate with you. I'm not saying we want to invite a wild grizzly bear or any bear into our place without understanding, into our space even. We might not even want it on our property if it's a very destructive animal. But what about the animals that are like our pets? You notice that some of the animals have certain attitudes. What about the animals that don't have that aggressive attitude? What about the animals that are curious, just like we are, and are a little bit more peaceful in their passing? The black bears of Big Bend National Park are primarily vegetarians. That's all they have there is plants, in general. When the plants stopped fruiting and blooming the way that they were before, the bears went to the next level and basically ate all kinds of wildlife. The decline in everything around an ecosystem that is unhealthy is apparent. It's totally obvious. And again, you don't even have to just scan the sky for that very long. If you can bridge the conversation with your prior generations, hanging out with retired park rangers, for an example, which I've done, if you could do that and just express a conversation that says, hey, where are all the vultures that normally would be on the horizon, taking to the air, on the thermals? If you could have those conversations during the appropriate times, in the appropriate spaces, without just making a joke or a remark that says, we've got vultures all over our place in the city. If you could look in the true wilderness, which most people in suits will not do, then you'll see something. You might see a little bit of yourself. You might see a little bit of yourself in me as I'm talking with you, the same way that I might see a reflection of myself in anyone who I talk with. All of us, we feel good the same way. When we're complimented, that sure helps, you know? When we're chastised, well, was there a reason for it? Are we being bullied when we're being chastised? Is someone's sole purpose just to make someone feel bad? That's how wildlife can make eye contact with us. That's how domestic and even feral dogs can look at someone and know, is this person on the level? Is this person genuine? There are a lot of good actors. A lot of good actors in our proximity at any given point in time. But it's no act and it's no accident when all of this wildlife remains constantly absent throughout great periods of time, during which in the past we would have a whole other type of experience. Check this out. I don't think you got to see that by my mistake. I tried to turn the phone around to record what came across the road. It was a deer, and it had its antlers in velvet. They look like they're just kind of starting. They're definitely not the biggest set of antlers, but they're filling in really well. If the deer showed up, you can see its ribs, and you can also see that I continued the video right from where I had left off, and you can probably observe that even in the transition of the size of the trees continuing to get smaller and smaller. Whatever the case, we saw a deer after all of that driving. Now I'm getting to the point where we're almost going to be above the tree line, and I have a tremendous view of the alpine tundras, and usually there would be herds of elk, bighorn sheep, and all kinds of other things up here. So with all of that wildlife in one of these meadows, one of these alpine tundra areas, I should see something on occasion. That doesn't mean we're going to see everything on every drive. I'm just suggesting that there's enough wildlife here and there's enough familiarity that I have with this place to let you know, on average, how often we normally would be seeing some of these things that we're just not seeing. This day is a beautiful day. It's almost 60 degrees. The sun's out. It feels warm. It's not blustery, windy like it was the last time I was here. The moisture that has hit this place is evident. The roads are still dark, and there's not any corresponding emergence of insects that I can see yet. So take it or leave it. That's how I feel about what I'm seeing in all necks of the woods. What are you seeing? From lower to upper elevations, what are you seeing? You can see I think you got to see one of the RVs that was parked on the overlook area. Because what I'm seeing in much of this country is looking a lot like things are a lot more gone this year even than last year, and a lot more quickly than maybe people are able to notice, because people might be going to school right now to study for these situations. What are they going to do? They're going to go into all kinds of fields, like maybe geology, maybe climate, whatever it is. All of that's going to require trying to read some kind of book, theoretically. You don't need to read a book. You can come out here real time and see the fields of blooms of flowers with not a whole lot on it. You can see all of this alpine tundra with not a whole lot on it. I'm going to park where I normally used to see the pika and the marmots, and I'll try to record those for you. Hopefully I can. We're almost at that area, so we'll see. Stay tuned.